Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. I want to talk about a book that I've made a few videos on. This book, The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow, a New Age movement in our coming age of barbarism. Constance Cumbey. She was an attorney turned researcher. So we're all familiar with the rainbow symbol, the New Age mentioned on the cover of this book, and the coming age of barbarism. So are we coming into a new age? Yes, we are. If you go by the astrological signs, we have we're leaving the age of Pisces. And we're entering the age of Aquarius. They even have a song, the age of Aquarius. And a lot has happened in the last 100, 200 years, preparing the world for the entry into the age of Aquarius. A new age. And the elites into the different Kabbalah type cults, mystery religion cults, have plans for this new age. This new world order, this global order. It's apparently an anti-Christian effort, an anti-Islamic effort, probably anti-shamanistic religions and tribes, including the Buddhists and Hindus. Apparently, this is an attempt to bring the world a global religion, a global currency, a global government called a global world order. And apparently they've been setting the stage, doing a lot of things, preparing for this big event at the beginning of the age of Aquarius. French Revolution, wars all over Europe, wars in the United States, World War I, World War II, 9/11, assassination of so many people. It's just too much to count. It boggles the mind when somebody tries to sit down and ponder that. The people that have been slaughtered all over the world. So all these preparations being made for a global world order. And the New Age philosophical teachings. Christianity's outdated. Even the channelers channeling some kind of entities from the other side, behind the veil, the invisible realm. The underworld, Hades, hell, heaven, the Pleiades, Andromeda, Sirius. Where do you suppose these beings are from? What is this ancient religion with numerous gods? Who are these people planning on bringing the world a global world order? So I want to talk about it. So I made 4 videos on this book, and when I do get books by different authors who I feel are delivering some important information, and not that I say to trust every word in Constance Cumbey's book or any book I go over or anything I say. Use some discernment and thinking. Take some notes and study and ponder. Try to use rational, clear-headed thinking. But anyways, when I do get books from an author like Constance Cumbey, The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow, and I made 4, I think, 2-hour videos, I try to find other books by these authors. And in this case, A Planned Deception by Constance Cumbey, author of The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow, as it says on the book. A Planned Deception, the staging of a New Age Messiah. So I've been connecting the dots. Let me just read from the index of this book, the table of contents. The planned deception. The early New Age centers. Conscious political networking. Working out the plan. holography, disarmament in the New World Order, of rainbows and unicorns. Shirley MacLaine, A New Age Case History, Is the New Age a Nazi Revival? The Protocols of Zion, Synchronism in the Church, Were the Christians Misunderstood? Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, The Incredible Heresies of Father Matthew Fox, A Secret Kingdom. Networking, A Global Vision. So anyways, I've been reading from the book, and I thought I would start out this video by reading from this chapter. Is the New Age a Nazi Revival? And I know a lot of people knee-jerk and they go, oh, of course it's not. But I must ask a question. Do the people who control our world really control our world? I guess that's a rhetorical question. If the people who control our world are the people who control our world, then they're the ones who are controlling our world. They control the media. I'm not trying to be silly here. They control the education system. They're called by many names. They control the banking systems. They control the politicians, bought and paid for. Does anybody disagree with any of that? There's a comment section below. So anyways, whoever it is does control the world. They control the oppositions, the Hegelian dialectic, the idea of dividing two groups so they fight each other, so the puppet master can control the whole situation. So who would be controlling the whole situation in a devious manner? Like in The Wizard of Oz, who's behind the curtain? An evil, sinister devil, demon, or some nice little old man? And in The Wizard of Oz, you had the wicked witch of the north, and then the good witch of the south, whatever. It's interesting to think about reality. All the symbolisms in the TV programming. The Lone Gunman, a movie that came out a couple years before 911, according to Jordan Maxwell, where they actually had planes flying into buildings. So the symbolisms are everywhere. So somebody is controlling our reality, controlling the world, controlling the information we receive, hence controlling our minds, controlling what we think. And we humans are emotional. They planned an event like 911 and everybody reacted. Everybody blamed who they were pointing to. The Arabs did it. Osama bin Laden. Saddam Hussein must have been involved. They destroyed that country. And of course, many more countries to follow. But when you look at the bigger picture, what do they say about a crime, a criminal? Follow the money to find out who the perpetrator was, the thief or the murderer. Follow the money. Motivation. Who had a motive to do it? So who was the winner in 911? Apparently, according to the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, 911 benefited Israel. And it was a situation where most of the world obliged the attacking parties from the governments of Britain and Germany and France and the USA aiding Israel to destroy all the countries in the Middle East. How convenient was that? Because if you go look up on the internet, they had maps already planned out and a plan for a global world order and a greater Israel returning to the ancient property lines of the ancient kingdom of Judea. And all this is in alignment with biblical prophecy. So I think we need to put our thinking hats on and listen, look and see and reason, because I think there is a grand deception taking place. So in this book, chapter 9, Constance Cumbey's book, second one I have, series number 40, part 5, because I made 4 2-hour videos on this book, and I may go back and do another one on this book and numerous ones on this book. Not only am I moving forward in my authors, the book reviews, I think I just finished 248, excuse me, on the unconditional hatred, series 248. So not only am I moving forward in authors, the number in the series to 249, 250, and eventually maybe someday 300, but I am planning, and I have been, going back all the way to series 1, the Freemasonic edition of the Holy Bible, and on some of the videos, eventually maybe all of them, is making part 2 or part 5 in this case, and some of them I made 12 videos, so it could be part 13 or part 8. Wherever I left off on those books, I intend to go back, because I certainly know more now than I did then. So it's a little bit more interesting when I go back to the book and read some more material, putting it into context what I know now, which is an interesting thing when you watch my videos, which is why I made them. So people could just relax. I've already done part of the hard work. I found the books, I read them, looked at them, reasoned, had some education, studied for almost 10 years before I started making videos. So I tried to arm myself with a little bit of knowledge and wisdom, and seeking the answer to, of course, the question, WTH, what the heck is going on? It's quite confusing. So I do these book reviews in a sincere attempt to bring some reasoning, some common sense to our reality. Not that I'm trying to convince everybody that I'm 100% correct, because obviously I'm not. I don't think anybody could get this discussion 100% correct. Anybody in this world, maybe God's world, they know why they're doing all this. But we humans, largely, many of us, are confused. There are the planners for this global world order, and then there are the we the people, the citizens, who don't understand why all these crazy things are happening. And crazy things are happening. Crazy things have happened. Crazy things will happen again. And it looks like some huge event coming in our future is going to be one of the craziest things that's happened on planet Earth as far as we know. So I do these videos and we have a conversation, and that's all you can do. So page 83 is the New Age, a Nazi Revival. And I do have a bunch of other document and pictures that I'm going to go over some other information briefly, because I think I can paint a picture of who, what, and why in this video that will answer a lot of questions. The ability of the neo-paganism to reaffirm itself militarily and contest with Christianity for men's minds and bodies tells us that the Nazi nightmare is the most recent but not the final act in a larger human tragedy that is still being played out. It would be foolish to see the phenomenon as a specifically German problem. The Occult and the Third Reich, I've made videos on that book. Looking over here on my bookshelf so I can see the number clearly, and I do not. But anyways, on the occult and the Third Right, I made several videos on that book. So I'm going to read that paragraph one more time. The ability of the neo-paganism, so some religion of many gods, to reaffirm itself militarily and contest with Christianity. So you have a contest going on between Christianity and paganism. And I'll say paganism probably is in alignment with the New Age, Illuminati, the Kabbalah, Synagogue of Satanism, Lucifer, and so much more. The New Age, transgenderism, pansexual. But it is apparently an anti-Christian effort as well as anti-Islamic and any other peoples who want to abide by God's 10 Commandments or other commandments from other religions and turn towards the dark side. I know that sounds crazy, but I'll read on and maybe it won't seem so crazy. As in any other movement, those working for the New Age do so for all types of motives. Some are altruistic, so some of them are sincere. I believe that. Others are calculating. Some people probably do it for money. Some people do it because they have power and control and ulterior motives, selfishness, or a huge global order plan. Some wish to give, some wish to take. No doubt the majority of the movement are there because of their better rather than their baser motives. So a lot of people in the New Age movement might think they're doing the right thing. All the people convinced about transgenderism and promoting in the school system, if you don't like being a man, you can convert to be a woman. And if you don't like being a woman, you can be a man. Who pays for all that? Is that a government program? And if apparently the satanic forces control our governments, it must be a nefarious, evil, sinister plan. Paganism. They are sincere when they say they practice harmlessness. So a bunch of people are probably sincere. I don't disagree with that. However, in this initiate, adept, structured network, there are just as certainly adepts as there are novices. So there are people that are well educated into paganism, and then there are the recruits, like in Freemasonry. You have the higher level Freemasons all the way up to 33 degrees, and the lower level recruits who probably have no idea what is really planned and going on and how they're being used. And this is admitted many times over. There are certainly those who have read the fine print of their seminal writings. And of course, there have been many occasions where things came out about the Freemasons, and there was a mass exodus of Freemasonry, a lot of people leaving Freemasonry. Stuff hit the paper like Captain Morgan's murder, or the courier who was hit by lightning in Bavaria, and the documents were found in the Freemasonic courier's pouch with plans for a new world order. I guess that would cause some politicians and police officials to take notice, and they shut down all the Freemason lodges and temples and organizations all over Europe back then. Just like in the United States after Captain Morgan's murder by the Freemasons and cover-up, people everywhere were leaving Freemasonry, and a couple teachers, Christian teachers, were going to the lodges and sharing some information, and Freemasons would get up from their seats and leave when they found out what it was all about. I've gone over books on those topics. But people still seem to be drawn into this New Age, Freemasonry, Illuminati, and other philosophies that appear to be anti-Christian, buying the information and propaganda and deception, hook, line, and sinker, as I once heard in a movie. So, who do not know that the movement is about something less than peace, light, and love. Nevertheless, they still enthusiastically participate. Just as many Christians know little about the content of their Bibles, so too do many New Agers know little of their printed works. So people like to join some kind of organization, be part of some kind of groups, and maybe they do not know what they do. So too do many New Agers know little of their printed works. Many high on the mystical thrills of the movement know little of the sobering content of books they may even revere. So a lot of people prize their books and materials, but probably do not really understand what's going on. The average New Ager accepts at face value statements that Alice Bailey and Saya Baba, etc. are saints, like Helena Blavatsky, Theophilus Society, and so many others. They put these people up on a pedestal and everybody just thinks they're great. Since they have been taught to disengage their analytical mind and shift their intuition, they seldom are in a position to make a critical analysis of written material. As they enthusiastically enter the touchy-feely substitute to an outside world, all too frightening and forbidding, many New Agers partake and abandon logic for feelings. Thus, they have little time left for to rationally examine, as Shirley MacLaine puts in their unearthly writings. Worse still, they usually have knowingly invoked spirits. Knowingly invoked spirits. So if these people are in meditation or practicing these occult rituals, firing up the kundalini, get your energy so you can see the other world or communicate with other beings, who are these unknowingly or knowingly invoked spirits and beings? Is that a good question? These lull the New Ager into a false sense of peace about what they see, hear, and read. And people leave comments on my videos, and they say they've had this experience or that experience where they had this dream or they saw this being or heard this voice. And I keep saying, do you know who it was? Just because you heard them, maybe you were lonely, maybe you were hurting, and you needed something to come into your life. Do evil spirits lurk looking for people, situations? And apparently, according to my research, these beings do have a propensity or are drawn to people who are in a more distressed state of mind. Depressed, drugs, alcohol. They lead themselves more susceptible to some kind of spiritual entities entering into their realm. They're not protected by the Holy Spirit, God, or whatever religion you believe in. They don't know. And even if you read the works or watch my videos on the different shamans, like the Separate Reality by Carlos Castellanda, who went to Mexico from California, spent some time with a Mexican witch doctor, shaman, took peyote, and saw this other world. And Max Long, I've gone over his investigation in Hawaii with the kahunas. I've gone over information with the Peruvian people taking ayahuasca. Even David Icke talks about that. So, and I've gone over the Hopi Indians and their communication with beings. And even Eric Van Daniken and his book Gold of the Gods and his travels down to Ecuador and the artifacts that he photographed and the stuff that he wrote. It leaves very little doubt in my mind that there are these other beings. But again, I ask, who can you trust? Who should you trust? The New Age material? A planned deception? the Rainbow Coalition, the people that are anti-Christian, the people that brought us World War I, World War II, 9/11, and some other things I'm going to show in this video. Who should you trust? Still others have read this material and have put all their trust in the angel of light. Remember that word, light. Lucifer is known as the light bearer, the bringer of light. And Barbara Marciniak, one of her books on the communication with the Pleiadians, is the bringers of the dawn. That would be the morning star, as Lucifer is called the morning star. So remember this bringer of light and morning star and all these symbols of sun god and sun's rays in this Kabbalah New Age type of religion, where they have the rainbow, and even Barack Obama's presidential logo was sun's rays coming over the earth. And a lot of corporate logos have the sun's rays, like Sunbank, and of course some of them, like ABC, have I think the all-seeing eye symbol. So we see these symbols everywhere, and so they do capture our minds, and people do get led into the New Age teachings, propaganda, or deception, however you might want to look at it. So they put all their trust in the angel of light. They engage in their initiatory experience. Consequently, they feel they must pursue the program, including the cleansing action, and that they must do as a matter of religious conviction. Still others are involved, as are some of the humanist and atheist persuasion, because they believe we do need a world order. So a lot of people are into this stuff because they believe we need a new world order. They can see the obvious. The existing world order is in trouble. I say the existing world order is in trouble because the people who control our world are bringing all these problems about so that people will see that it's in trouble and approve of, and even probably beg for, this change that they have designs to bring to the planet, the global world order, the global world currency, microchipping people, all aligning with biblical prophecy. So people are going to beg for this change, just like Barack Obama brought us when he was elected president. Change, he said. Did change ever come? No. And then to make America great again with President Donald Trump, is that happening? And in my opinion, no. A lot of agitation going on all over the world and other problems, a lot of entertainment and drama, but making America great again by the way they're doing it? Absolutely not. So they do get these slogans and logos and politicians who are good deceivers. They take polls to tell us what we want to hear. They hire campaign managers and expert advertising companies. It's a huge thing to control our minds. I don't think too many people will doubt that. Anyways, back to the book. They believe it will not succeed unless the planetary residents share a common religious outlook. So they do want to bring us the Hegelian dialectic philosophy, divide and conquer. Keep everybody at each other's throats, and united we succeed, divided we fail. Even in America during the Civil War, they had the North against the South, based on different kinds of philosophies and ideas. Some people in the North joined the South, and some people in the South joined the North. Families were broken up. Some people believed one way in the family, some the other. They were fighting on the opposite side. Crazy what they can do with this mental propaganda they push out there in these pamphlets and magazines and orators and teachers and speakers and school systems and so much more. The confusion causes people to seek answers, and some people find answers on the left and some people find answers on the right. That's what they depend on. But when you read things like the Ten Commandments or the teachings of Jesus, they're pretty much a direct teaching that we should love one another, not be destroying other nations and stealing all their resources and destroying and killing all their people. And then later on, for revenge, they do the same thing to us. Or like they're doing to the United States right now, they're making us look like demons. Think about it, with the gay pride parades and the people looking like a freak show everywhere, and the TV programming with all the viciousness and slaughter. This is publicized around the world. Some people will be watching that stuff, and over in China they do say that. They go, those people are crazy, insane, probably demonically possessed. And I believe the people who are controlling our society here in America are deliberately doing that. And we fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. The average New Ager looks at his or her material through rose-colored glasses of an altered state of consciousness. So get into yoga, get into meditation, find your answers. They're throwing out the bait and reeling people in. Slight sense trances are not conducive to reasoning. So if you get in a trance, what's that got to do with your reasoning and your common sense? Logic is seldom employed by the reader until someone or something intervenes to break the trance. So when you get hypnotized, and the technologies they have today, the material, the flicker rate on your TVs, and all this other stuff, the music, and the drugs and everything else, they do have the ability to hypnotize and put masses of people in trances, even with the propagation of certain radio frequencies. Look up the technology involved in that. They have found out that they can radiate a community with microwaves and different frequencies and control the emotions and moods of people. They discovered that with Project Montauk at the end of Long Island, with the gigantic SAGE antennas that were used to scan the horizon for Nazi submarines. But they noticed when they turned those SAGE antennas on, looks like big dishes you see on your house to get direct TV. But they turned them on and they noticed that even the animals would go crazy and start running through the little town streets. And people would get emotionally charged and go berserk, or get some frequencies would make everybody get really serene and calm, while other frequencies drive people mad. Especially, you get a particular situation of an economic collapse where people are already agitated, and then you propagate the frequencies that enhance those emotions. You've got the recipe to be able to control whole masses of people and put them in a rage. They have those technologies. So unless you can break the trance and enable the reader to realize the horror of what it is contemplated on the printed page. So they do suck people in onto these different organizations and groups and cults, into these different New Age and other kinds of teachings. And horror is set forth on those printed pages. It is a horror that even many unrepentant New Agers have admitted is real. So a lot of people who have been in this admit that it's a problem, it's real. Since the publication of my The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow, even David Spangler and Peter Le Messier have admitted the risk. So this isn't just me. There's a lot of books, and I've gone over plenty of them, that talk about this mind control, this propaganda out there, and it's infiltrated the school system, the education system, our social society, social conditioning, the movies, the TV programming. You get the Modern Family TV program, and you get Jerry Seinfeld. This goes way back. And Charlie and 2.5 Men, where these leading male characters are bedding a different woman almost every show. People start accepting this as normalcy, and so much more, even with the Modern Family, and so much more with the cartoons and the characters, even affecting children. This is intentional. It is real. Peter La Mesure, New Ager author of the Armageddon script, spoke of the theosophitical Lucas Trust Mafia. So I've gone over plenty of Helena Blavatsky's material and other people into the Theosophitical Society, also called Lucas Trust. That means light. Like I say, keep paying attention to the word light. The light bearer, the bringer of the dawn, Lucifer. So it was called the Theosophitical Lucas Trust Mafia. And apparently, not apparently, I have books, but it was initially named the Lucifer Trust. There you go, light. And Lucas is another way of saying light. So in his Beyond All Belief, in a chapter entitled 6 Impossible Things Before Breakfast, he called Adolf Hitler the Theosophist most notorious proxy disciple. So a lot of people know that the Hitler regime, Hitler was into the occult, the Thule Society, the Vril Society, apparently communicating with the beings behind the veil, some other kinds of entities and beings. So Hitler was into that. Now think about that. Hitler was into the occult. Was Hitler a New Ager? And a lot of people are New Agers today. Hitler had organized huge groups of women for pleasuring the military soldiers, and had even baby farms for the children, offspring. It was quite an organized event during those times. And I ask an interesting question. If you talk about the Illuminati and Freemasons, and they are New Agers, if anybody doubts that, I have a Scottish Rite of Freemasonry book here called The New Age. So when you talk about these occult teachings, the bringers of the dawn, the light bearer, I'm going to keep saying that word, light, 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 get it? The light shine on you, go into the light. So there's a lot we don't know. And it says on the Freemason magazine here, liberty, equality, fraternity. And you got these Egyptian characters, the Ankh under one of them. And this one has a serpent on his neck. That should tell you something. The Ankh at the bottom by my fingers is the ring on top of the T. The T means divine. The circle means serpent. He has the serpent at his neck, and on the other side here you see the Egyptian symbols and the naked woman there. New Age, you see the double-headed eagle. So that's probably telling us it's like a two-faced situation. They are deceiving people with both dialects. Left and right, Republican, Democrat, whites, blacks, straights, gays, dividing everybody. So was the Hitler regime into the Thule Society, Vril Society, apparently communicating with some kind of beings that gave them rocket technology, etc., flying saucer technology? Apparently it was supposed to be used for the benefit of mankind, but apparently the humans who got these technologies didn't see it that way. Regrettably. So anyways, it says here, yet there are dangers in all this. What the human psyche can achieve when it is not restricted to the absolutist belief laid down by the conventional rationality, for it was precisely this technique that was also used by the Theosophist, most notoriously proxy disciple, the dictator Adolf Hitler. So if Adolf Hitler was pro-theophist, Helena Blavatsky, I made plenty of videos on her books, and we'll be looking at that material again and again and again, all these topics, again and again and again. Going to continue doing it as long as I can. So they were into this cult, this teachings, and even Helena Blavatsky talks about going into trances and communicating with these beings. Even some of these beings appeared. Nikola Tesla said he wasn't the genius we all thought he was. He was getting the information from some other beings, dreams and visions and voices. So who would be feeding Nikola Tesla all this wireless technology that is now being used to set up a huge weaponized microwave transmission system throughout the world, and microchipping children, and beast computers, directed energy weapons? You think these people brought all of these advanced technologies to pollute our environment, to destroy us? So it seems. Are there satanic, luciferic, demonic, fallen angel beings who hate humankind? So it seems. Although La Major appeared to have insight, his conclusions were faulty. He felt we needed a new planetary messiah to prevent such a Nazi revival. And I'm going to say this clearly. Who financed Hitler and the Nazi regime? That would have been Britain and other elites in the Illuminati, into the occult. This is where it gets really interesting. Who controlled Britain? After 1600, when they executed the king and Cromwell brought all the Jewish people in from Holland and Denmark to take over even the government, it was under these illumined people's control. So they wanted the German people to rise up again. So these people into this paganism, Gnostic, Illuminati, satanic, Luciferic cult, controlling the Freemasons and other secret societies and organizations, brought Germany back to power. So you notice how you can connect the dots. And who destroyed Germany in the first place in World War I? It was the same people who raised them back up. It's almost like a yo-yo, just to destroy them again and then raise them back up. World War III, probably to destroy them again. You would think people would become aware of this. So David Spangler admitted the risk. However, he had faulty ideas as how to prevent them. Here's what he said. Failure to see it as a reoccurrent of an old idea makes us more vulnerable to modern versions of that idea. And I keep saying it's not a new age. It's a return to an old age. If you know a little bit about history, you know that history is full of some serious dark times. The Dark Ages. Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Adolf Hitler, Civil War United States, and so many other wars, there's too many to count. In Asia, Africa, North America, Central America, South America, even before South America was discovered, people were battling and killing each other, even the Indians in North America. So these shamans, priest forces communicating with the other world apparently isn't anything new. The sinking of Atlantis. Why did that happen? What are the stories about that? Apparently, Atlantis was punished because it had gone into the decadency, polluting the world type of a reality and had to be destroyed. And then when the world was raised up again, apparently it got polluted with cloning and designing humans and half human and half animals, as we all see in mythology. So apparently whoever and whatever God is, it had to be destroyed again. They had the Great Flood, and all over the world, a lot of these native tribes talk about some kind of being, spiritual beings, whatever, helping them go in caves in the mountains or underground to survive the Great Flood. And we all know as Christians the story of Noah's Ark. So apparently, like a yo-yo, people follow the teachings that lead to the destruction of mankind. Are we doing that now? Also, the New Age movement in North America has much in common with its counterpart in Europe between the world wars. The ecological spirit and desire for transcendence expressed at that time in Germany became corrupted and channeled into the Nazi movement, which had many roots in occultism. So occultism, wouldn't that be Kabbalah? Encyclopedia says the Kabbalah was part of the historic culture, cults of historically the Jewish people. Probably that's why being into these kind of cults, occultism, is why the Jewish people had problems in all the countries that they traveled to when they were banned from one country and forced to immigrate into the next one for 2,000 years. Even in France in 1500, when the Jews were banished from France, it was because of their religion, this occultism, this Kabbalah. And many Kabbalists were called magicians, and many of them were called sorcerers, and we call them witches. I guess if you pay attention to this, you might understand what occultism and New Age and these teachings are. So we might want to put a big beware sign on cultism and Kabbalahism and New Ageism, because maybe the spiritual entities in control don't have the aren't interested in our welfare at all. Maybe their own personal gain and perversions. Is Nazism the beast revived? Is Nazism the beast revived? I'm going to take a break from that book and look at a couple pictures and documents, trying to add to this conversation maybe a little enlightenment. So a lot of people have seen pictures like this. So why would the powers that be building all these FEMA camps, facilities all over the country, probably the world? So a lot of people are aware about the propaganda, and if they do bring about a worldwide disaster, will people be sucked into getting on the buses and going to these camps? They don't look like they're set up for long-term accommodations. Do they? They look like holding areas where you're about to slaughter animals. So are these people in this picture? It hasn't happened yet. Let's hope it doesn't happen. I never noticed this before, but notice the owl. That would be the sign for Moloch, the demon. And look at the skull on the front of the truck. And of course, across America, a lot of people have taken pictures of fields full of coffins. So I'll just be brief on that. So you can go look up FEMA camps and associated pictures on Yahoo image site and decide for yourself. And of course, I pointed this out. The New Age magazines by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and the symbols. I've made videos, series 26, if you want to go watch them. New Age magazine, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. 49, 1934, 1927, 1970, 1962, So apparently they were around and in business, the Freemasons. And I've been paying attention to some other information I learned recently with No More News, and Adam Green and his conversations led me on to some other information that I wasn't aware of, but I was aware of some of it. So when you do talk about this New World Order, Global World Order, who's going to be in charge? I think that's a fair question. So apparently, prior to President Donald Trump being elected, breaking Israel news, Shahendran asked Putin and Trump to build the third temple in Jerusalem. And you can see the temple there, and you're not going to believe what it says. So I'll read it. Thus saith Hashem to his anointed to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him, and to loose the loins of kings, and to open the doors before him, that the gates may not be shut. Apparently that's in Isaiah 45-1, the Israeli Bible. So prior to President Donald Trump becoming president, it was in the news, how many people knew this, that the Shahendran, that would be like the court for the Jewish people in Israel, the political religious leaders, asking Putin and Donald Trump to rebuild the third temple. The Shahendran has requested that President-elect Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin work together to help rebuild the temple. So who are these people to be telling the leader of Russia and the leader of America to help rebuild King Solomon's temple? Apparently, these are the people behind a global world order, a global world religion, a global world currency, microchipping people, FEMA camps, 911, World War I, World War II. I made videos on this. It is an eye-opener. It's kind of scary. The nascent Shahendran is calling on Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to join forces and fulfill the biblically mandated roles of rebuilding the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. So make no mistake about it, this is a worldwide issue to bring about a global world order, and in America they are installing microwave transmission systems, 5G network, beast computers, artificial intelligence, dumping chemicals from the sky, destroying our environment, bringing us disastrous weather, droughts, hurricanes, storms, directed energy beams, a lot of people reported in California, bringing us the fires, smart meters, exploding on the back of houses, starting fires, and so much more. Mented. Sometimes I get going. Melted metal railings and other things that shouldn't happen in a house fire or a forest fire all over the world. You can watch plenty of videos on these topics. So Rabbi Hillel Weiss, spokesman for the Shahendran, contacted Breaking Israel News to announce that the election of Trump, who has promised to recognize Jerusalem as the capital. So that was no accident or small thing when he finally did announce that the U.S. recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel to fulfill this prophecy and to move things along, kind of hurry them up, as it says here, for this global world order. They even made some coins, and these are shekels, and apparently they're half a shekel. And he charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. So do people really believe that God put President Donald Trump in the presidency. And then his face is right next to King Cyrus, and that looks like a Shriner symbol there, a high-level Freemason. And of course the menorah, sacred symbol for these Jewish peoples. Cyrus helped build the King Solomon's temple the second time, authorizing the Jewish people to do it and supplying a lot of the money. There's a picture of the King Solomon temple coin. So apparently, to be blessed whenever this comes about, you've got to get yourself a half shekel coin, make a pilgrimage to the temple to get the blessings of the temple, and give them a half shekel. So they have to make the coins. They have to build the temple. That means the Islamic most holy site, one of their most holy sites, the Dome of the Rock, which sits on the ruins of King Solomon's temple, needs to be destroyed. So I have these pictures. Here's another one. So if you're going to join this new Luciferic world order, you might want to get your shekel so you can make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem to get your blessing. So that involves Donald Trump and his election as president. There's more here. I've got some pictures. So will it look like something like that? And what does it have to do with the ancient gods that a lot of the people on the videos say are coming back? Does somebody believe that these ancient gods are really God and they want President Donald Trump to be president and all this other stuff to go on with the Rainbow Coalition, paganism, anti-Christianity? Even this holiday season on Yahoo, when I checked my email, there was the menorah symbol. And when you go shopping in the big mart stores or electronic stores, they had the menorah on the front glass window. So there is something going on here. I have more pictures to show how the Freemasons throughout the years have been building models of King Solomon's temple. So I've clearly connected the Freemasons with the New Age, and I'm connecting them with the supporting the rise of Israel and the rebuilding King Solomon's temple for the third time, aligning with King Cyrus. So I suppose we could call President Donald Trump King Trump. Will they make that declaration someday? King Solomon's temple and the Masonic tradition. So obviously these things are connected, and I read on in the book and show these documents. All this will make more sense, because you have to keep these things in the back of your mind, who we're dealing with, when we all know there's a Freemasonic temple in some cities, many of them, in all of our major cities, and they have plans for rebuilding it. And of course the Dome of the Rock, a holy site for the Islamic Muslims, has to be destroyed. So the Freemasons, do you really think they know what they're involved in? I think not. So back to this document. So it said here, so before the election, President Donald Trump promised to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And we know that the Freemasons have been behind this movement all along. And they've been kind of running our country, supporting the Illuminati and other secret organizations, non-elected people who are making decisions, like the Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, and so many more. Ford Foundations and Rhodes Scholars, like Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. Skull and Bones Lodge, where George Bush went to college, and John Kerry. And of course, the Bohemian Grove in California, Bilderberger Group's Club of Rome. And these people are organizing things like the rainbow parades, pride parades, and the women's marches, and the black pride groups, and the white supremacist groups, white lives matter, black lives matter. All of this stuff is organized. As it says here on this book, the New Age movement and our coming age of barbarism, and we see all the barbarism on TV, it gets so vicious. I mean, they don't have to have such explicit murder and shooting scenes where one movie I watched yesterday, the girl took the gun right up to another girl's face and shot her right in the eye, and so much more. But it does affect us psychologically. It is part of the social conditioning. Coupled with Putin's expressed desire for the temple to be rebuilt. So this is a global world order. Putin is where he's supposed to be. Donald Trump is where he's supposed to be. I suspect the president or the leader in Britain and Germany and all over the world, they are where they're supposed to be. The puppet master has everything in place. And according to one video I was watching, the United States is not the only country moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Apparently, there's a parade, maybe 60, 70 countries, all controlled. They have taken over all these countries all over the world, and they're feeding us this rainbow paganism, New Age material. And I will get back to Constance Cumbey's book after I briefly go over this information. But we need to understand what's going on behind the scenes, along with the propaganda, the New Age social conditioning programs, propaganda. Coupled with Putin's expressed desire for the temple to be rebuilt. So this is a religious, worldwide religious anti-Christian effort, and Trump and Putin are working together, controlled by the Illuminati, the puppet controllers, the Zionist Jews. No doubt. Prompted the Jewish court to send a letter offering the two, Trump and Putin, the opportunity to act as a modern-day Cyrus. And we see here they have the shekel coin with Trump and King Cyrus on it, and the Shriners symbol, and the high-level Freemasons. You notice the connection here? So the opportunity to act as a modern-day Cyrus figures non-Jewish kings. So they're calling these leaders, Putin and Trump, kings, non-Jewish kings, who recognize the importance of Israel and the temple. So I might want to ask this question. What do you think? Should the Israel Jewish people rule the world? Is this part of prophecy? They were exiled from that area thousands of years ago, and were on something called a diaspora for 2,000 years, dispersed everywhere, run out of one country after another for 2,000 years. That's common knowledge. You can look it up on Yahoo research or YouTube videos, and they go into great details. Even banished from France in 1500, and all over Europe around 1500, 1550, 1600. So they were all running to Holland, Denmark area, and over towards the west, Poland area, Russian area. So they were forced out of general Europe. Did you know that? How did they get back in, and what happened? There is a story here, and they are in control today, as you're going to see here with these pictures. And they had these secret lodges in our communities all along. This is only one of them, the Freemasons. They know how to tempt people to join these groups. And they do a lot of debauchery, and there's a lot of stories about the female dancers and the drinking and riding around on goats and everything else. Not what I would call what you would do in a Christian church or Islamic church or anything like that. So make no mistake what they're promoting. Cyrus the Great, the king of Persia in the 6th century BC, announced for the first year of his reign that he was prompted by God to make a decree that the Temple of Jerusalem should be rebuilt. So apparently, King Cyrus on this coin with Donald Trump was prompted by God. Thus saith Koresh, king of Prasa, all the kingdoms of the earth hath Hashan, the God of heaven. So Hashem is the name of the God of heaven, given me, and he hath charged me to build him a house in Yisraeliah, which is Yehuda, apparently Israel. Cyrus sent the Jews under his rule back to Israel with a considerable sum of money with which to rebuild the temple. The Sanhedrin plans to call on the two world leaders to take up this ancient biblical decree and support the Jewish people in their holy mission. So the people who are bringing us about also bring us the Rainbow Coalition, the hidden dangers, according to Constance Cumbey, and it's a holy mission. So the two things do go together. They are controlled by the same peoples, the world controllers, the controllers of the world. A little kind of one of those play on the comedy act. Who controls the world? The world controllers, the global order people. Rabbi Weiss explained that the U.S. elections have made the eternal Jewish dream a very real possibility. And I would say their money did, and the polls and the media and all the craziness during the election. I mean, if he had anybody else running against President Donald Trump, he wouldn't have won. And if anybody else was running against Hillary, that person would have won. But they gave us two completely insulting choices, in my opinion. I suppose President Donald Trump wouldn't like me saying that. But he's the one who recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And so I guess a lot of other countries did, and everybody's moving their embassies. And there's more in these documents about what's coming soon, apparently. We are poised to rebuild the temple. The political conditions today in which the two most important national leaders in the world support the Jewish right to Jerusalem as their spiritual inheritance is historically unprecedented, Rabbi Weiss told Breaking Israel News. The Sanhedrin's letter notes that Trump's upset victory was due to his support of Israel and reminds Trump of his campaign promise to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, effectively recognizing the city as the capital of Israel. The Jerusalem Embassy Act, passed in Congress 1995, initiated the moving of the embassy. So this has been going on a while, but has been vetoed since every American president since then. The Sanhedrin calls on Trump to withdraw the veto after he takes office. And this reminded me, I wrote a note here, of Woodrow Wilson being elected prior to World War I, when President Taft would not assist the Jewish people in obtaining the Palestinians' land. Hence, they had to destroy Turkey and the Ottoman Empire to do it. Hence, they needed World War I and World War II. And then, of course, as things moved along, they were probably going a little slow, so they had to have 911 to speed the program up. Guess they didn't want to wait till 2000 200. They wanted to get it done now. 2019, 2020. What do you think the target date is? It's obvious it's going to happen. And what's supposed to happen when it happens? That's what the Noahide laws are all about that they passed in secret in the USA. The Sanhedrin also recalled Putin's connection to the temple in its letter. During his third official trip to Jerusalem in 2012, so Putin is probably in bed with Israel. Obviously, Donald Trump is. In other words, they're all united. And when can Jewish people in the United States be loyal to America, United States, and loyal to Israel at the same time? Can anybody have two masters? And the Bible says you can't. So these secret societies, Freemasons and other organizations, Illuminati, are they loyal to this goal of having the world controlled by Israel? And it's in this document, by the way. Or independent sovereign countries? No, they're for a global world order, global world currency, global world religion. Noahide laws, where heresy is punishable by beheading. And if they declare Jesus a false Messiah, anybody who still believes could likely be beheaded. And apparently that's in the Bible. Just saying. So recalled Putin's connection to the temple in its letter. During his third official trip to Jerusalem in 2012, Putin paid a late night visit to the Western Wall. When he arrived at the holy site, the Russian leaders stood in silence for several minutes, offering up a personal prayer, after which he read Psalms from a Russian Hebrew prayer book. So I keep saying that after the Jews took over Russia in the Bolshevik Jewish Revolution, they never gave up control of Russia. They control Russia, and if you've been paying attention to my videos or anybody else's, they pretty much control the governments all over the world. They are readying the world for a huge global world order. And this is one of the tools. Look what it says on the bottom. A new age movement, our coming age of barbarism. So anyways, Russia and Putin is at the Wailing Wall reading from a Russian Hebrew prayer book. And an Israeli bystander called out in Russian, "Welcome, President Putin." Putin approached the man, who explained the importance of the Temple Mount and the Jewish temple. An Orthodox Hebrew news site reported that Putin responded. Putin said to that guy at the Temple Mount, at the Wailing Wall, "That's exactly the reason I came here, to pray for the temple to be built again." So these people who don't want to believe in Christianity, don't want to believe in God because of the propaganda that's being fed to everybody, but they believe in this rainbow coalition, pansexual, transgender thing. Wait till you hear what's in these pages. They do believe in God. And they hate homosexuality and all these other things. It's in here. It's part of Noahide laws that were secretly passed. All those people can be punished with death. So why would they be promoting those philosophies in America if they're passing laws saying those activities are punishable by death? You think they want an excuse to round up a lot of people and kill them? Putin at the Western Wall. After this remarkable exchange, the Sanhedrin sent a letter to Putin calling on him to fulfill his prayer. At the time, President Putin did not respond to the Sanhedrin's request, but now that the incoming U.S. president is potential ally in the project, the Sanhedrin believes it is time for Putin to take up an active role in rebuilding the temple. What do you think? In addition to its request concerning the temple, the Sanhedrin is also calling on Putin and Trump to renew the 1920 League of Nations resolution known as the San Remo Treaty, which essentially enables the creation of a Jewish state by dividing the Ottoman Empire. So in 1920, after World War I, they had a treaty that they wanted to divide the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, located in Turkey and all over the Middle East, controlled the Middle East and would not allow the Jews to have the Palestinians' land. I keep saying these things. So it's quite clear why they had World War I and World War II. Why the Illuminati, Zionist Jewish elite in Britain, controlling the financial district in the country, financed Hitler between World War I and World War II. They needed to topple a lot of governments. So it incorporated the Balfour Declaration issued by Great Britain in 1917, when Great Britain was losing World War I. All the Jews in Germany and the world turned on Germany, and Germany was their home base, their Garden of Eden after fleeing Russia. Did you know that prior to World War I? For 100 years they were fleeing the Russian territories because of persecution and pogroms, again for the same reason they were probably banished from France and Britain and Italy and all over the Europe countries for 2,000 years because of their Kabbalistic sorcery, witchcraft type of religion. These are the people taking over the world, the people bringing you this. Okay, so they were 1920 League of Nations Treaty, which gave official recognition backing to the establishment of Israel. So you get 1920 League of Nations San Remo Treaty. You got the 1917 Great Britain Balfour Declaration, promising that if Britain won the war with the Jewish support, they would annex the Middle East countries and, I guess like they've already done, help destroy them and depopulate them so they can have a greater Israel. And apparently all the people in the world are going to have to go get their shekel coins and go pay respect and honor to their particular god. And if you don't, you'll probably be accused of heresy and be beheaded. Those who haven't already been depopulated by World War III, or whatever they do. U.S. President Calvin Coolidge ratified the San Remo Agreement in 1925, thus making recognition of a Jewish state legally binding by U.S. law. 1925, 1920, 1917. And since then, more and more and more continuing the program to bring us where we are today. All right, let's see if I can finish this document, get on with the book. The Sanhedrin emphasizes that it is imperative at this time, when the Palestinian Authority is attempting to rewrite world history by campaigning against the Balfour Declaration, to strengthen the historic American commitment to the State of Israel by readopting the agreement. And like I said, I was listening to No More News and Adam Green in his debate with Owen Schroer of InfoWars, Alex Jones' program, about how are people supposed to be pro-Israel and pro-Zionism. And apparently, if you speak negatively of this, you're breaking the law, the Noahide law, punishment by beheading. Did you know that? It's in this document. Crazy. Rabbi Weiss emphasized that supporting the Jewish claim to Jerusalem would bring benefit to Russia and America as well as the entire world. So the people who have been banished from countries all over the world for 2,000 years reach the beginning of the age of Aquarius, a new age. What's going to happen? Bible says there'll be an Antichrist, Armageddon, world destruction. Certainly looks like everything is on something like a railroad track. It's moving along perfectly on the tracks. The leaders of Russia and America can lead the nations of the world to global peace. So they've had wars for 200 years, an insane amount of destruction and death, so they can bring the world to global peace. Through rebuilding the temple, a source of peace, for the third time. Rabbi Weiss explained, this will offset the disgraceful UNESCO United Nations resolution that are the root cause of increasing terror and violence. The UN United Nations, again controlled by these Illuminati, Kabbalistic cults, they have a meditation room that is clearly Gnostic, pagan, and they helped put the archway of Baal, the devil, in London and New York. And later on I found out through UNESCO, at their expense, the United Nations, gets supported by USA dollars, was putting these archways to the devil in 1,000 different cities all over the world. Excuse me. Last month, the United Nations Educational, Cultural, and Scientific Organization, UNESCO, passed 2 resolutions denying any connection to the city of Jerusalem and the Jewish people, citing to Islam a religious monopoly on many of Judaism's holiest sites. So it's a grand deception, and of course they use climate change, terrorism, and sustainability. Okay, so another document I got here, to be quick about it, as I looked up, and you can look it up, Trump and the Third Temple. So all the gory details, it's true. I'll just read the bottom one here. Trump fulfilling biblical prophecy for the Third Temple of Jerusalem. And there were 393,000 results there. And apparently in December, there was an announcement in many newspapers that they were going to consecrate the altar, days until dedication of the Third Temple altar. So apparently that was on December 9th, 2018, just a short while ago. This is coming at us just like a train, just like I keep saying. All right, 7-year peace treaty signing, breaking news, Third Temple altar. So you can go look that up. There were 729,000 results. I had this other document here I wanted to read from. Quite concerning. 7 days until dedication of the Third Temple. So in December they were dedicating the Third Temple. The Freemasons for years were building all those models, and so they had that big military apparatus, all those Freemasonic lodges everywhere and other secret societies, fulfilling some kind of ancient biblical. That big brass thing in the middle with the cows underneath it, that's where they wash a sacrifice before they take it up those steps onto that other altar to have the sacrifice to God. Kind of looks like a Masonic temple there. All right, so another thing here besides all of that, Putin and Trump both supporting the rebuilding of the temple. This other document, December, they had a dedication, and so apparently they're going to be rebuilding this temple right away. So sometime soon we probably can expect a wayward missile or some event to destroy the Dome of the Rock. So who knows why President Donald Trump pulled the troops out of Syria recently, and Blackwater announced in the news, "We're coming," like a warning to the world. So 70 nations invited to Jerusalem Shahendran declaration to replace the United Nations. So they want to replace the United Nations with a government religious organization to rule the world or judge the world, make laws for the world, the Noahide laws, the ones where if you commit a crime of heresy, you're punishable by beheading. And apparently they have 7 laws here we'll look at in a minute. So Jerusalem, the reestablishment of a Jewish Sanhedrin, is pushing the envelope. So Jerusalem and the government, the Jewish Sanhedrin, the Jewish Congress, is pushing the envelope on the rebuilding of the temple next Monday, the last evening of Hanukkah, a couple weeks ago, by consecrating a stone altar and reading of a declaration to all nations intended as an invitation to participate in receiving its blessings, leading to an effort to replace the United Nations with a new, God-centered organization. Remember, these people brought us this. Brought us the Nazi regime. The Illuminati controlled the Federal Reserve and the other banking systems all over the world, toppling governments all over the world. So that's going to be your God-centered organization, the way I see it. A full-dress reenactment of the Corbin Oath Timid, the daily offering. Just going to read my highlighted sentences here. The Sanhedrin is the name given to the council of 71 Jewish sages, would be like religious wise men leaders, who constituted the Supreme Court and legislative body in Judea during the Roman period. So they want to recreate, bring back the ancient kingdom of Judea. These are the people who brought us this. And this attorney turned researcher, Constance Cumbey, calls it the hidden dangers of the rainbow, the New Age movement, the coming age of barbarism. And they bring us movies like I.O. or Hunger Games, Divergent, all this stuff, all this propaganda, destroying our society, dumbing down America, the world, stealing trillions of dollars from the U.S. Treasury for the last 100 years. All right, so they're going to have 71 sages who constitute the Supreme Court, legislative body in Judea during the Roman period. It continued to function for more than 400 years after the destruction of the temple. There have been several Orthodox attempts to reestablish it since that time. The current attempt to reestablish the Sanhedrin is generally referred to as the Nascent Sanhedrin, the developing Sanhedrin, the reestablished Sanhedrin. So down here, according to Jewish tradition, the tabernacle and Aaron the priest were consecrated for service on the last day of Hanukkah. Explained Rabbi Hilly Weiss to Breaking Israel News, it is fitting that we should invite the nations to the ceremony, since Hanukkah is about bringing light to the darkness. Lucifer is known as the light bearer, the bringer of the dawn. Lucas trust, Lucifer trust, all light, light, light. The Jews were meant to do this for the entire world. He said, quoting Isaiah 49:6. So we all know in Revelation 2.9, 3.9, and other places in the Bible, that it says that the Revelation by St. John, I know who you are, Jews who call yourselves Jews, but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Satan is also the same thing, or the prince of, with Lucifer, known as the light bearer. So who is their deity? And they're into the Kabbalah, and the Kabbalists and the Freemasons admit Lucifer's their deity. You can look this up. So they're doing this now, December. We know things are going on. President Donald Trump's pulling the troops out of Syria. Some people say it's because something's going to happen here in the United States. They need them here. And some people say there might be an attack on Iran. Who knows? Back to this document, and I'll get to the book. I Apologize for this little diversion, but it was quite important. In King James Version of Scriptures read, "And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and restore and preserve of Israel." "I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles." A light to the Gentiles. So we Gentiles, non-Jews, need to have a light. Christianity needs to be destroyed. That wasn't the light. I guess they want to teach us. "That thou mayest be my salvation until the end of the earth." The Jews were brought back to Israel. That would be going on now. It's called Aliyah. They've been practicing Aliyah for the past 100 years. Aliyah means the return. So they had World War I, World War II, and 9/11, and they've been coercing and instigating events, including anti-Semitism worldwide, to get the Jews to return to Israel. This has been a plan. You can verify it. The Jews were brought back to Israel for the purpose of spreading the light to the nations, the rabbi said, as the sages instructed the Jews to pray every day. So they're praying every day to bring the light to the world. "The new light will shine upon Zion, and we should all merit to this light very soon." The light is Torah. That's a Jewish holy book. The light of Torah, which comes from Zion, which reveals the hidden aspects of God. Reveals the hidden aspects of God. So they were having a lot of dumbing down of America and anti-Christian teachings and propaganda. So a lot of people don't believe in God. A lot of people don't go to church. Does anybody disagree with that? They've been discrediting Jesus, saying he's not real. Do you watch videos? So they are destroying Christianity. But it says in here, there's going to be this religion, and this central place will be in Jerusalem, which will reveal the hidden aspects of God, which seems to me to be the Kabbalah and all these mystery religions, secret societies, and their cults. That will be the world religion. We'll all be initiated into it and be illuminated. And those who don't swear allegiance to the light, Lucifer, is punishable according to the secret passage of Noahide laws in the United States by beheading. Clear enough? Zionism brought the world World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much death and destruction. And I had a little question here, yes or no? So when I read all this, I asked myself questions. I think of things. The ceremony will also be part of the Sanhedrin's ongoing effort to establish a Bible-based international organization to replace the United Nations. The New Age Kabbalah destroying Christianity. Rabbi Yoel Schwartz, president of the Sanhedrin's court for the Noahides, here it is, has been charged with preparing the declaration called the Song of Israel and the World that would describe the spiritual basis for the organization. So the Sanhedrin will rule the world. They want to rid the world of the United Nations based on the Noahide laws, which were secretly passed in the United States. Noahide laws secretly passed in USA, and beheading is the punishment preferred. And you can look it up. All of humanity needs to prepare for the day that the Lord will reign in Zion, when they too will make pilgrimage to Jerusalem to take their part in the temple service. So if you're anybody who wants to be respected when this happens, you got to have your shekel. Maybe one with President Donald Trump and King Cyrus's head on it. This is no small thing. The sage teaches us that the world stands on three things: the Torah, their holy book, the temple service, and the acts of loving kindness. Lacking the temple's service, the world is like a throne that stands on two legs. We are very close to the time about which the prophets of Israel prophesied that the God of the world, who created everything, will be called by the world in the name of the God of Israel, for only the people of Israel remain attached to him. So they're obviously denying Jesus and Christianity, because the God of the world, which obviously to them is not Jesus and Christianity, and only the people of Israel remained attached to him. So it says here on this press release from these people. Humanity created religions such as Christianity and Islam. So they're saying God did not create Christianity. Humanity did. That served as instruments throughout history to bring humanity closer to this great day, when everyone would recognize the God of the world that was revealed on Mount Sinai in the desert that belongs to no people. It should be emphasized that the Ten Commandments that were given at the time belonged to all nations. They were heard all over the world in 70 languages, so that every nation would hear these things in their own language, the echo of things. This is as witnessed by the reality that it is the only book in the world printed in every language that has a printed book, and was hinted at by the prophet Zephaniah. So they're praising the Ten Commandments, but yet again, it is these people who have brought us this statue of Satan, the devil, with holding two children, putting it in front of the state building in Oklahoma because they had the Ten Commandments. It's these people who bring us the Rainbow Coalition. So if you're a rational thinking person and you're listening to what I'm reading, or what's coming in here, and there's more, it's pretty scary. You have a choice. They say this stuff is punishable according to the Noahide laws, and the preferred punishment is by beheading. So would homosexuals be beheaded? People who commit abortions be beheaded? People who do not deny Jesus Christ be beheaded? People who don't swear allegiance to this global deity be beheaded? And why are they bringing us all this propaganda to have people not believe in God, to discredit it and teaching it? The communists were the Bolshevik Jewish people. They were controlled by the banking system, the Illuminati. They controlled Britain and brought us World War I and World War II, the Balfour Agreement. Controlled the United States when they took over the United States money supply after assassinating a couple presidents. Then in 1962, when President John Kennedy said in his famous speech that he was going to expose this, he was assassinated 10 days later. The clues are everywhere. I've been going over this in my videos. For then I will make the peoples pure of speech, so that they all invoke Hashem by name. Invoke the deity? The Kabbalah and other things are kinds of magic where you have secret names of gods or spirits or beings to invoke them. Stephen Greer takes groups of people to parks and seashores where they do these evocations, mantras, and they bring these beings called UFOs and aliens to appear. Did you know that? I get emails from Stephen Greer inviting me to these events. So they go to these beaches and parks and they do these mantras and get in a circle, maybe like witchcraft, and these beings appear, people see them. And here it says you're going to invoke Hashem by name and serve him with one accord. Anyways, I did want to get to this last part in this document. There are 7 Noahide laws. At that time, we will all serve the one Creator and fulfill the moral obligation incumbent on all mankind. Giving to humanity 7 ironclad rules. Remember, this is what's being promoted all over the world. And listen to what I'm about to read. And you decide. These are the 7 messages of the Creator of the world to humanity, known as the 7 Noahide laws. 1. Belief in God. He who created everything. There is none besides him, and no one should turn away from him. That's a law. Number 2, blessing Hashem, God, literally the name, respecting the Creator and the sages who are familiar with his Torah. So this is a law, respecting the sages who are familiar with his Torah. Respecting the places of worship. So that would be the new King Solomon's temple, maybe? Or whatever temple they build. Respecting the places of worship. Remember, they're going to rebuild the temple. Got to have your half shekel. And the prayers are recited to him. It is forbidden, God forbid, to speak harshly against them or to curse them. And that would be the, I guess, the Zionist Jewish people who are going to replace the United Nations, the sages who are doing these ceremonies. So it's going to be a crime to speak against these people. And all over Europe, speaking against the Jews or Zionism, you can be arrested and imprisoned. It already is a crime. So they probably want to do that all over the world, and part of this Noahide religion makes it a crime. Number 3, stealing, the preservation of the rights of others to property, the honor and body, and not to desire to take anything belonging to others that is not for sale. So if these people control the banking system and control much of the world, and the rest of the people are left to starve, if anybody tries to steal anything, like the Iraqis were trying to feed their children, bread and water or whatever, if you're accused of stealing with the Noahide laws, it's probably punishment by beheading. Laws to establish courts and to judge justice and to direct society, obey the orders and decision of the courts. These people are going to rule our planet, apparently. So President Bush, in his famous speech, if you remember that, said, out of the New World Order, out of chaos and anarchy will come the New World Order, a rule of law. So they plan on bringing this rule of law, their law, Noahide laws. They passed it in secret here in the United States. Number 4 here, or 5, killing. Do not shorten the lives of people, including the lives of the terminally ill, terminal ill. The opposite is also true. To invest efforts to heal diseases and maintain health. So I do know that these investors, Illuminati, money people, control all of Big Pharma and the food manufacturing, which are full of GMOs, genetically modified foods, GMFs, and poisons and vaccines and fluoride in the water and chemicals dumped in the air, microwave transmissions, mind control propaganda. But they say they want to be responsible to even heal people. So something doesn't add up with that one. And there another law is have mercy on creatures, not to be cruel to animals. One of the most forbidden acts is eating the organ or limb from a live animal. Now who would eat an organ or a limb of a live animal? I never heard of that. The animal must be killed in a way that is less distressing, such as cutting the neck. And here's a tough one that everybody should listen to. Now look, I'm holding this in my hand. The hidden dangers of the rainbow. You're not going to believe this. Noahide law. Are you ready? Prohibition of prostitution. The mitzvah, Bible commandment, to build a proper family life. And of course, they're destroying the family life and dumbing down America right now. It is a severe prohibited to commit adultery with a married woman. It is also forbidden to perform a same-sex marriage, and also forbidden in sexual intercourse with animals or homosexuality. Last highlighted sentence. Noahide laws. It says on the bottom there, therefore anyone who receives upon himself all these 7 rules in front of a rabbinic court has a special status in Judaism, even though they are not Jewish. They have entered into full partnership in the service of God. God's call to return his people to his land will show that the belief of some nations that Israel was in exile as a punishment was a mistaken belief. So for 2,000 years, when the Jews were dispersed all over the world and having problems, even banished from the Tennessee territories during the war between the North and South, the Civil War in the United States, why did General Ulysses Grant ban the Jews from the Tennessee territories? The exile was only in order for Israel to serve as an example to the nations for serving God. So even in France, when they were exiled in 1500 because of their religion, I guess Christianity was not their religion. They were told they could convert to Christianity. Some of them did, became known as conversos or Moranos. And when they were caught still practicing the Kabbalah or the Jewish religion, they were brought before the Pope. And Ignatius Loyola was one of those people arrested, brought before the Pope. And when he walked out of the Pope's office, they created the Jesuits. What was that all about? Some kind of deal was made. Were it not for the exile, Muhammad would have not known God and would have been idolatrous like his other brothers. Were the Jews not in Rome, the idolaters would have remained to this day. The Torah was translated into Greek, and the nations copied the word of God because they were Jews in the Egyptian exile. Now it is time for the Creator's people to return to their land. And from here, light, I keep talking about light, Lucifer is known as the light bearer, will come forth to the world, and when we merit it, and the temple be restored and built in its place, then even more will all nations realize that the time has come to worship God. The crisis of religion today is a preparation for the true worship of the Lord. The crisis of religion today? Well, the communists and the people controlling our country brought the crisis to the world of religion, discrediting it. Most people believing Christianity is outdated or never existed, was a fabrication of the church. All those videos you can watch on YouTube. All those speakers saying that. Proving it. That's what they say. So here I am trying to connect the dots. I'm reading this book, and I've been learning about all this information about President Donald Trump before the election, promising what he promised the Israelis, who apparently control much of the world with the Illuminati, the elite banking systems. And they've been controlling things for a long time, seriously involved in world religion. Is Nazism the beast revived? And apparently they financed the Hitler regime, made it powerful enough to bring us World War II. A planned deception. The staging of a New Age Messiah. Noahide laws. Remember all those key words. Earlier publications of New Age groups, including the Lucas Trust, the Light, Lucifer, Lucas, light, and the Theosophist Society indicate that there may be more than just mere ideological similarities between the modern New Age movement and Nazism. Modern New Age, Freemasons, Scottish Rite magazine, and the Freemasons with all their models of King Solomon's temple I showed you. All connected, clearly. It could well be a continuation of the very same thing, and Nazism could very well represent an early failure of the plan. So they have a plan, a global world order. A 1934 Theosophical publication, Helena Blavatsky, Annie Besant, and the other books I've gone over into this metaphysical activity, Kabbalah, New Age. The Aryan path gives strong evidence for this. So apparently here's a document. I'll read it. The essence of youth is revolt. The revolt that comes of a vision of broadening life and the urge for self-expression. Each generation tramples on the ideas of its parents, but only to set up ideas of its own. So the people who study psychology know how the youth think. Hence, such movements as the Boy Scouts will find no place in this letter, for they belong within the framework of our civilization and contribute to its preservation and increased efficiency, whereas the typical youth movement of today aim at building of a new order. So they have mind controlled the people, as we all know, even 30 years ago with the Pokemon chips, and now a lot of young people look like Pokemon characters. The graffiti on buildings and bridges in downtown areas, we can all see what it looks like. The thunderings of Carlyle. Nuts. I guess he's the guy who created nihilism, nothing matters. Tolstoy had little effect upon the brutal pyramid of industrial civilization, but a few middle-class German youths, about 1900, thought it would be possible to escape from it and build differently elsewhere. So around 1900, a lot of German young people wanted to go off in the wilderness and build a different world. They didn't like the industrial empire. And I'm sure it was just as polluted as it was here in the United States, where the shoe factories and textile industries were dumping all those chemicals into our waterways during the industrial period in the United States. And then, of course, when they moved all those industries over to Asia, they're dumping all those chemicals in the Asian community waterways. It's horrific. I saw a special on that the other day on YouTube. So whoever controls our world is intentionally polluting and destroying our world. And these are the people that want us to worship them. Think that God brought them to the planet to do what they've done. The Illuminati, the banksters, the elites. The ones that Jesus said when he overthrew the money changers' tables, ye are of your father the serpent, Satan. I don't say everything exactly. It might have just been Satan or serpent. Thirsting for light and air, they wandered forth into the lovely countryside of Germany, seeking that natural beauty, that creative freedom which the town denied them. All that was artificial and conventional, they opposed with the freshness of youthful instinct, giving up nicotine, alcohol, fashionable restrictive clothing, and the extravagance in food, and finding in the old folk songs and dances full expression of their joy in life. And you see a lot of people trying to get off into the woods or get off the grid, they call it, today. In an atmosphere of mammonized religion and hypocrisy, these young people were suspicious of Christianity and invigorated by the breath of nature and the rhythms of their dancing and wanderings. And of course, then proclaimed a joyous paganism. So the people wanted to get away from control and were suspicious of Christianity, probably a lot of propaganda in the news. And obviously during the historical period of even the Christian church, we had a lot of leaders that were despicable. And that helped people move away from the church. And even during the 1920s, when they had congressional hearings about communism, they said they were going to infiltrate the Christian organizations and destroy them from the insides. They said that. A lot of other things. They were going to infiltrate all aspects of our society and bring about this chaos and anarchy we see today and problems we have. Dumbing down America, no family values. Halloween's the most popular holiday, not Christmas anymore, not Jesus, not God. Something's wrong. The movement grew. It was becoming conscious of itself and assuming the proportions of a crusade when the war came. It crumbled and most of its members perished. With the revolution, aspirations of liberty reawakened and thousands joined the new largely proletarian youth movements with a bitter knowledge of the horror of our civilization. The romantic ideals of pre-war youth were no longer sufficient. Political power was now the goal. Central Europe was seething with political dissensions, and soon the youth movement was in like condition. Many of the 4,000 youth homes scattered across Central Europe were originally dormitories for tired workers, but are now model homes embodying the finest application of science, centers of physical, mental, and social culture. Here, the self-discipline of youth attains its finest flower and is preparing a race of nobly developed men and women. Something new had to be created. Young workers set up a number of small self-supporting communities. Soon most of these banded themselves together in the ambition to create a great working community of a brighter, freer, spiritually rejuvenated Germany, of which each society was to be a microcosm. To most young Germans, the ideal state is Germany. Germany in a position of triumphant leadership, and of there are other youth movements in the West, but these are typical. The cleavage between the old generation and the new has never been so wide as the present, but youth generally has not attained to the constructive vision of the German youth movement of even 20 years ago. The most vital contribution of these Western movements to the new civilization is the sense of internationalism. So it sounds to me somebody here was trying to promote this idea of communism, socialism. The International League of Youth started by the Danes and the Christian youth. So the seeds of the New Age, and then of course you have the New Age Freemasonic Scottish Rite, and all of the propaganda for the Rainbow Coalitions and all the New Age material today, and the communist hearings back then. And back then, after World War II, they had in America the hippie movement, bringing us drugs in the Vietnam War and all that music culture, rock and roll with all the satanic symbols on the albums. Over in Europe, they were calling it festivals, doing the same things. So this was a premeditated thing, and I believe it's by the same people here who are bringing us this global world order, and President Donald Trump and the President of Russia, Putin, all working together to reestablish Israel as the center of the world. And you read about the Noahide laws. So back to this book. a planned deception, the staging of a New Age Messiah. So everywhere, however, there was a dawning consciousness that the future of mankind lies in his own will. The stirring of this recognition is already having powerful effects in India, China, and Russia. The youth movements of Western Europe are dimly groping towards it. With their slower apprehension, they may be ultimately realize the significance of their power more completely. Then, with dazzling vistas of opportunity, arise what undreamt of what undreamt of greatness becomes possible for man. What undreamt of greatness becomes possible for man. So what are they teaching people with the pro-homosexual, pro-marriage, pro-transgender, and all this other stuff, anti-Christian preaching, and to discredit and say that Jesus wasn't real? And then also in secret passing Noahide laws with those things I said that they are going to prohibit, while they're promoting all the decadency and perversions in America, punishable by the Noahide laws, possibly by beheading. So according to not Nestor Webster, Constance Cumbey, get some of my authors mixed up, the above article could have well served as a description of the modern-day New Age movement with its various youth groups and intentional communities. So like I said, they are intentionally doing this in America today, and apparently 100 years ago, they were intentionally doing that all over Europe and Germany and Russia and India. So this is a worldwide thing. It's a global world order goal, and I think it's Luciferic satanic, and it says it in the Bible that it is, and it's part of prophecy. So the New Age admissions. That article was written several years before World War II. There is little doubt in my mind that the average theophist was horrified by the German carnage and that utopian experiment gone awry. So remember, the Germans, the elite, were into the Vril Society, Thule Society, getting communication from some kind of spiritual entities, building rockets and apparently anti-gravity devices and bombs and everything. And apparently, according to my research, Germany was pushed into World War II. Germany was pushed into World War I. So, I mean, how does a country behave when they're pushed into these world wars? And apparently, according to my research, even in the 1700s, after the French Revolution, and these Illuminati Freemasonic New Age types took over France, they invaded Europe and the German area dozens of times, forcing all those 200 small Germanic states to unite into larger ones. It all goes back to these Illuminati Kabbalistic type cults, bringing us the New Age material, pro-homosexual marriage, which are contrary to these laws that they say that are going to be the law of the land. I just wonder if they're not setting the whole system up, turning all these people into all these decadent activities that they know that in the future they're going to ban, punishable by beheading. What a deception. That's this book called A Planned Deception. The staging of a New Age Messiah. And of course, prophecy in the Bible says it'll be an Antichrist. So all this deception is being put in place. By judging from some New Age writings, there were those who knew. In 1972, Foster Bailey, Alice Bailey's lawyer husband, wrote, part of the Theophist Society, another approved hierarchical project is the uniting of the nations of Europe into one cooperating peaceful community. The plan is not for a new all-Europe government, nor for a common language. One attempt was to begin by uniting the peoples living in the Rhine River Valley, using the river as a binding factor. It was an attempt by a disciple, but did not work. Now another attempt is in full swing, namely the Six Nation, a European common market. We all know about the EU, passed in secret without the citizens' knowledge. They were using all that propaganda, just like they did to get passages or gay marriage approved in the United States and the lottery approved in all the states in the United States. Initially, even the lottery, when the people were asked to vote on the issue, the people, with common sense, and rightly so, rejected the lottery. But some of those CEOs and elites said, nothing to worry, we'll just re-educate the masses, put stuff in the newspapers, and how the money's going to benefit the school system. Did it ever benefit the school system? No, they just diverted the money from your property taxes and used the lottery and spent the money from the property taxes. What a game, what a sham, what a deception. As one gentleman from Philadelphia told me, one doesn't need 100 monkeys to figure out that the disciple was not what this New Age movement is all about. The solution, not the force. I just have a little bit more to read on this chapter. The problem of La Major, Spangler, and the enthusiastic theophist of the 1930s in the Aryan path lie in believing that they could control this wonderful force. New Age, spiritual communications, channeling material, all that stuff you can watch videos on. All these people into this metaphysics, denying Christianity, Jesus, the people think they can control this force that they contacted. Still another, New Agers know they can't manipulate that force. These Luciferic satanic forces, now called aliens and UFOs, but believe they can trust it to properly guide them. And a lot of propaganda about trusting these Palladians, Zetas, and all these other aliens, Greys, and Reptilians, Galactic Federation. All connected to everything I've been talking about. What they fail to recognize is that they will not manipulate it. It is manipulating them. Further, it is not benevolent. Just as Nazism went awry and became a potential embarrassment, so did Jamestown go awry and became an embarrassment. And so will Maitreya. Regime go away and become a fatal embarrassment. Although many blamed both on religion's fundamentalism, many in New Age leadership knew instead that they were occult, utopian experiments gone sour. And remember, in the Encyclopedia Judaica, I made videos on this. The historic religious culture of the Jews was the Kabbalah. That is part of this mystery religion of Whore of Babylon, if you want to call it that, mystery religion of Babylon. Synagogue of Satan, as it's described in the Bible, Revelation 2.9, 3.9. All this stuff that people believe, this sounds to me like it's a little clearer now that there are some evil forces that we can't believe and we can't trust. Who can you trust then? The real mistake Spangler and others are making is thinking that they can study their mistakes to avoid repeating them. The real mistake is involvement with the Luciferic forces in the first place. One so doing will never be in control. He will be in control. So what do you suppose they want to rebuild this King Solomon's temple? These mysterious forces. See the light on the top with the Freemasonic symbol? The six-pointed star that's on the Israeli flag. Another one of their temples, the checkered floor, the pyramid in the back, the sun and the moon. The original tabernacle of the Jews when Moses came down the mountain. The burning bush, told Moses to build that tented area for the Ten Commandments and the golden box they were going to put it in, the Ark of the Covenant. And you can see the enclosed area. You can see in the center there the big old pot in the middle. That's where they clean the sacrifice, and you see the smoke in the middle of this thing. That's where they burn the sacrifice. This is the religion that's coming. You just saw me show you the pictures and read from the documents. The Noahide laws and the dedication to the altar. The rebuilding of King Solomon's temple. Crazy? You think? So if they discredit Christianity, they want to try to convince people that Jesus never existed, and they bring us this hidden dangers, Rainbow Coalition, Constance Cumbey, the New Age movement. What they're against, I'm for. I'm sticking with God, common sense, and Christianity. What Jesus taught, that we are to love one another. And I don't think he meant that in the all of us having a sexual orgy. I know, that sounds silly. But the New Age teaches anything goes. Can you imagine? The satanic Lucifer teachings, that's what they teach, according to the books I've been going over. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.